are going to go ahead and get started with the Finance Committee meeting. And so I'm going to call the meeting to order at 4:03 on today, Monday, June 7th. I'm going to go right down the orders list. If we don't finish for whatever reason, we'll just ask the questions in the regular city council meeting. And we're going to ask that we limit questions for the counselors to one question, and then if we have more time, we can circle back if there's additional questions, because it's just such a long agenda. And like I said, we have to move quickly into the next meeting. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I'd just like to thank my colleagues, Councilor Gomez and Councilor Letterman, for being here. And I want to thank everyone else, Tim Sheehan, Pat Burns, Melanie, TJ, and Lindsay, our wonderful Susan, Stephen, Focus Springfield, for everything that you do. And we'll go ahead and get started with the first item on the agenda, which is the April Revenue and Expenditure Report.
Thank you, Councilor. I'm just going to point out two things in the interest of time. I'll have some more this evening. In the month of April, we collected $41.9 million in real estate, both commercial and residential taxes. If you look at last year, we collected only $22.6 million in the same period. And that was due largely to the fact that we moved the due date from May 1st to June 1st due to the pandemic to help out the taxpayers. And also on the expenditure side, I mentioned last month that we've been working with the school department to firm up a projection on money we're going to have left over in the school transportation account. And they've come back with a figure of $13.5 million, which is good news for the city because this expense is outside of the net school spending calculation. So this will flow directly to free cash next year as part of the calculation.
So 13.5 million is what they didn't spend?
Correct.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So free cash for 2022, fiscal year 2022, Pat?
Yes, it'll be our end result for this year, but the Department of Revenue won't certify it till hopefully November, December of next year.
Gotcha. Any questions from counselors? That's great news on both ends. Getting more money in. All right. Thank you for that, Pat. Seeing no other questions, we're going to move right on to the home ARP funds. No match, 6 million, some change dollars. TJ, Lindsay. It's muted, TJ. There we go.
Tim, you want to speak on all the ones for Echo Dev?
Sure. The home funding is basically the affordable housing programming that the city will have coming through the American Relief Plan Act. And it's processed as such to support housing initiatives in the city associated with accessibility, affordable housing, those types of things. Happy to take any questions that you might have. And this is related to the COVID, obviously.
Thank you. Councilor Letterman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tim and TJ and Lindsay. So this is a pretty large amount of money. Is this separate and aside from the other American Rescue Plan funds that we're anticipating?
Yes, it is. This is the additional entitlement money that we are getting.
Say that one more time, TJ.
Additional entitlement money that the city's getting
Okay.
in addition to the 93.8.
So I know we have a long agenda, but could you just go into a little bit more detail, since you are coming for acceptance and expenditure, on what you're actually going to spend this on? Because it is $6 million.
Yeah.
It's really coming back. One of the issues, Councillor, is that we believe the American Rescue Plan or Relief Plan was actually designed in terms of its parameters from the guidance that we've gotten around healthy homes. So we see a pretty significant investment into healthy home initiatives. You might be familiar with the healthy homes that we've done via Central Street and in the Six Corners neighborhood, basically taking, the soup to nuts in terms of individual houses, and also in response to some of the concerns we've heard, there's smaller scale initiatives that might not be the entire house that needs to be done, but there's energy efficiency issues that would be looked at. And we think that those issues can be addressed via these funding sources as well, both from a CDC level and from a city level.
Counselor?
No, I won't belabor it, Councilor Whitfield, because I know you have a long agenda. I just think we all need to get together around the details on that a little bit more in the near future.
Yeah, my question was, are these the same type of funds that can be applied for from residents, or?
Yes, they can be applied for. It would basically be a program that we would have, and residents could apply for the funding source.
And will it be like income based?
Yes.
Okay.
We typically try to structure it so that it's geared to low and moderate income individuals.
And will it be like programs you already have in place, just funding it with more?
As I said, we think that the plan itself is aligned with healthy homes, and we think it's ideal to use that structure as part of it. One of the concerns, though, that we heard was that, and this was coming back in the reach out from CDCs, there's smaller needs in the housing stock as well, and if we could actually fund CDC, a couple of the CDCs to do smaller initiatives, we think that could work as well.
Okay, so I just want to tell you what I've heard from the community. I hear a lot of folks that are over the income guidelines and they can't meet the threshold, but they really, really need the funds to replace roofs and things like that. I hear a lot from the historic neighborhoods as far as needing more support to improve historic housing. And so what I would like to see whatever you decide to do with the funds is more communication going out to those folks into those neighborhoods, especially like the historic districts, because some of them do not even know where to go on a city side to apply for some of the funding that's available to the city residents. So that would be great if they could get communication if they live in those areas.
We can certainly do better on that communication front. I would agree.
Thank you, Tim. Councilor Hurst?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize that I missed the gist of what these fundings could be used for. I think I've got it. My recommendation would be if we could work in concert with code enforcement, who oftentimes, for whatever reason, is identifying areas where homeowners need to repair their houses. And oftentimes these homeowners don't have the money to do these necessary repairs. So it would be nice if every time, or if you could work in concert with those individuals who have been cited by code enforcement to see if this funding could assist those individuals. So not sure if it could be used for that purpose, but just wanted to throw it out there in the event that if this funding can't be used, then some other funding could be identified for that purpose.
We certainly could look at that in terms of the home allocation from the annual entitlement, for sure.
Thank you.
This we have to relate specifically back to COVID.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
So is your plan 100% spelled out on what the funds will be used for, or is this something you're still working on? Like, do we need to approve these funds today in order to get them? Because I think that we need to drill down a little bit more, like Councilor Lenneman said, on the uses of the funds. And I don't think that there's a clear definition of what these funds will be used for, unless there is.
Well, in terms, I think that the larger allocation is going specifically to housing initiatives for the city. And then there would be, as I said, a CDC component to actually deal with some of the smaller components. I think there's, you know, a pretty well conceived of big picture as to how the funding is going to be utilized. But if you want to get into specifics, we can certainly work through that.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to get into specifics. Councilor Gomez?
Yeah, I want to get into the specifics. I want to see the instructions and the whole material in writing so I can educate myself and educate my community, because in our sector, I don't know about it. And I'm pretty sure that our people don't know about it, and we're losing out. So I would like to see it in writing where I can sit down with ease and read it and see what we are entitled to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. I agree. I had someone just say yesterday, you know, there's these programs that the city offer. We had no idea about them. We don't even know where to look for the communication, especially when it comes to like homeowners in the city that really struggle with repairs and things like that. And even first-time homebuyer programs. Like, I think that we need to do better at the city in doing more informational sessions and getting this information out to the community. And so, again, I'm gonna ask the question to you, Tim, or Lindsay and TJ. If this is not approved tonight, will there be any blowback, fallout, anything?
My recommendation, if it makes sense, because this is one grant, there's 4 other ones coming up with big dollar amounts as well. I guarantee the council's gonna have similar questions for. And then we have the big overarching one for next Monday's agenda. If you wanted to put them all on the same agenda so we can talk about this holistically and set aside an hour just for the rescue recovery plan.
Yes, that's what I'm going to request so that we can have a more in-depth conversation. I know today is not the day for it. So I appreciate, Tim, your flexibility, and TJ, you offering that suggestion.
Yeah, it just makes sense. There's just a lot coming our way and they're big dollars. So we want to make sure that the education moments there and that we actually have a good approach to the public piece as well.
Okay. All righty, Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, TJ and Lindsay, items 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe 6. The 6 is not a million, but it's getting there. Are they related to each other? Are they related to the 12 million of COVID funds that we wanted to reimburse because of COVID loss of revenue? I look at them all, you know, CDBG, I guess, is by itself probably, but what are these things? Even if we don't vote to approve them and put them on next Monday, just what are they?
These are all the grants that the city is getting from the HUD mostly for dealing with the pandemic response. And also, I don't know, Tim, is this all pandemic ones, or is this mixed in with some of our other entitlement non-pandemic ones?
No, I think that the 2 distinctions that we want to make here are the ones that are related to the ARP in terms of calling those out specifically and saying, you know, we want to have, you know, a more detailed conversation with the council about how the ARP funds are being considered to be spent. But the annual entitlement is the annual entitlement. That's just an annual program that the council's been dealing with since we've had the entitlement. So that's not anything that's different or new. The ARP funding and the order of magnitude associated with those dollar levels, I think is, at least that's what I'm hearing, is the level of concern.
So ARP is number 2. Is it also number 3?
Can we go through the, let's just go through it. And if it's ARP, we can list it at that time instead of having them answer that right now. And then if it's not, because some of them I've seen before, like HOPWA and things like that, they still may be related to ARP, but let's just go through the agenda and see which ones are and which ones are not. I think that'll be the
So number 10 The home funds, those are ARP funds. The HUD Continuum of Care, that is a regional grant that basically deals with homeless assistance in Hampden County and all of Hampden County, but Springfield's the pass through for it.
But that's not an ARP.
That is not ARP.
No, so let's just go to number 3 and talk about it a little bit. Talk about, you know, what it's for and what we got it. We're gonna slow it down a little bit. We're not gonna go one by one. We're gonna go by the agenda. So we know that we're gonna have a meeting on the home ARP fund, which is order number 2. So we're gonna move on to order number 3, Tim, and just, you know, give us a brief overview. I know we gotten that one in the past. I've seen it before.
That's the annual CDBG entitlement grant, and there's an annual action plan associated with that the council approves that basically gives the guidance as to how the city is going to deploy the funding resource. Kathy, I don't know if
that's the one that we have meetings on with the community, and they say we would like to see it used for these certain things.
That's correct.
The city of Springfield is awarded an entitlement amount every year, and we're given a certain amount for CDBG, home, HOPWA, and ESG. And these are our yearly entitlements. It has nothing to do with COVID.
Okay.
And the city has submitted an action plan to HUD, and they have 45 days to respond, to either ask for questions or adjustments, et cetera. And we have also issued an RFP for public service activities within that action plan.
Okay, is that Kathy Bono?
Yes, it is.
Okay, hi Kathy.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you for that explanation. Now, those action plans and the information that was sent to HUD, is that available on the website?
Yes, it's on our website. We had 2 Facebook Live hearings. We've sent out letters to over 300 organizations throughout the city of Springfield announcing it. Also announcing our RFP, request for proposals for public service. Those we received in about a week ago, and we have a committee that will be reviewing those RFPs for agencies that are requesting funding through the public service allocation.
Kathy, I would just ask that you send what was sent to HUD to the council along with the RFP requests to the council. I know not the RFPs that we got back, not the application that we got back, but the initial request that you sent out to the community.
The application?
Yes, the application.
Yep, absolutely.
Along with what was sent to HUD, just so we'll have an understanding on how the CDBG funds can be used, and we can articulate that to the community when they're asking us questions.
Absolutely.
So, thank you, Kathy. Just to reiterate to counselors, we have a short time frame to get through this agenda. I'm asking counselors to limit their questions to 1 or 2 questions so we can get through the agenda. We only have until 4:45. Whatever we don't finish at this meeting, we're going to have to just decipher it at the regular council meeting. Counselor Allen, did you have another question?
No.
Okay. So we'll move to number 4, unless that was answered through Kathy and Tim's explanation.
The home entitlement grant is the annual entitlement grant for housing but this is not related to ARP and is not related to COVID.
So, and the CDGB, which is the CDGB entitlement grant, is not related to ARP and not related to COVID?
No.
Okay.
No. And then the home funding is not related to ARP either.
Okay. So these are the normal grants that we get on an annual basis?
Annual basis grant.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
No.
All right. We're going to move to number 6, the HOPWA entitlement grant.
That's housing for people with AIDS, and that is an annual entitlement grant not related to the ARP.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none. Number 7, the community mitigation grant, specific impact grant, $400,000.
That's specifically targeted to the master planning work around the Main Street and Convention master plan. For this particular focus, it's related to the improvements for Court Square. both from engineering and design so that we could actually get the improvements into plans and specifications to put out to bid.
Is this a new grant, Tim?
It is not it's not a new source, but it is a new grant. We got awarded that funding from the Gaming Commission.
Any questions? Thank
No.
you. Thank you. The ESG number 8, the ESG entitlement grant, $333,698.
That's the same, Counselor. It's our yearly entitlement, and it's basically for shelter operations. There's no match required for the city, and it's done through a RFP process for shelter operations in Springfield.
And that's for home, shelter for
I'm
homeless?
sorry, homeless shelters, yes,
Okay,
sorry.
alrighty, no problem. I know we're moving fast and I apologize.
That's okay.
Mhm. The Mass Call 3 grant, $250,000, no match, number 9.
Sorry, you guys are moving faster than I can keep up.
Sorry, TJ.
That's all right. This is the Mass Call grant that we get from the Department of Public Health to reduce opioid overdoses.
Where do we get this from?
DPH.
DPH, okay. Any questions from council?
I do, Madam Chair.
Councilor Davila, did you have?
Yes, a quick question.
I can barely hear you, Counselor. Can you turn your mic up?
Can you guys hear me?
Better.
A little bit better.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. TJ, quick question, because I know we're moving very fast here. Did you say that's for overdose?
Yeah, it's for opioid prevention and try to reduce overdoses.
Can you tell me what that looks like?
Can I tell you what? Excuse me?
Can you tell me what that looks like? Is that going to be given to specific nonprofits? Or?
That's I'll defer to Helen on that one of how she has that program set up at HHS. I think
it's directly through the city. This funding doesn't go through to other nonprofits in the community.
It's directly to us, and I can fund a project manager to oversee the opioid reduction plan.
Does that answer your question, Councilor Davila?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear him. What did he say? The last statement?
It comes directly to the city, and it's to fund a position that's to help to reduce opioid overdoses.
To help fund a position.
Correct.
But not the whole 250,000. I'm going to go for that.
125,000 a year for 2 years.
So this is for salary purposes?
Not necessarily all salary purposes, but that's a portion of it.
So I'm thinking it's salary and to run the program. So whatever expenses falls under the program plus the salary of the project manager.
Correct, and benefits.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Sorry, I don't mean to cut anybody off. Number 10, problem gambling grant, $160,000.
Yes, that is from the State Office of Problem Gambling Services to mitigate the gambling addiction and funded through the state to HHS.
Would that be pretty similar, TJ, to fund the coordinator plus the services?
Yeah, the coordinator requisite services that might need to be happening, or make sure that they're monitoring and working with MGM.
Okay, and we can ask more specifics to the commissioner when we're in the city council meeting.
Yep.
Any other questions from council? Thank you. We are on. First, I just want to recognize Councilors Tim Allen and Councilor Davila from the Finance Committee. Thank you for joining. I want to also recognize Councilor Hurst and Council President Marcus Williams for joining. And I thank you guys for bearing with us as we move quickly through the agenda items. So the Burn JAG grant, $83,952, no match, number 11.
Yes, so this is the grant for the police department to reduce community gang and gun violence. There's no match for this one.
Is this a suppression grant?
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Is this a suppression grant? I want to know, like, what is it? Preventative, outreach, suppression?
So this one is specifically for overtime for police officers to prevent and help work on gang violence and gun violence.
Is someone going to be from the police department?
We have asked Deputy Kent to attend, and we have not heard back officially.
He offered to be here. I just don't know if we got back to him in time asking him to come.
If he's not here, we're going to table it. Okay. All right. Thank you. The Shine Grant, number 12, 79,163.73.
This is the annual grant we get to, for the last 25 years to help run a regional outreach for the elderly population, to match them up to services that they're eligible for.
Any questions from council?
No, I talked to Sandy about this on Friday, so it's just an addition to the Shine grant that they get every year.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Allen. Mass in Motion Grant, 60,000, no match.
Yeah, this is an annual grant we get to help reduce obesity and overweight and chronic disease in the city of Springfield.
You know, it's funny, we get all these grants and I do not see the communication for the programs that they say that they work on. Like, where is it? Like, where's the communication? Where is the advertisement? Like, where is it?
The communication piece is an excellent question.
I'm not putting you on the spot, TJ, but
it's one of those, like, you know, we have all these services and not everybody's aware that all these services exist.
yeah, I'm like, okay, that's a great program to combat obesity. I mean, I might need it, but you know, where is it?
Tracy, I know a little bit about that. This may be the 6th or 7th year of Mass in Motion. It's in Helen's organization. Nicole Borden used to run it for the longest time, and then someone else after her. And it included, you know, healthy foods and like convenience stores, a lot of different things, but it's in Helen's organization.
And some exercise classes and stuff like that?
Well, it was, you know, getting fruits into convenience stores and,
I see.
That, you know, and more than that. But I mean, that was just, it's been going on. I was pretty involved in it early on. I'd say it's at least 7 years.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Allen. I know that you really check into these grants and things like that, so I appreciate that. Mass Hill Grant, 37,311.50.
This is from Boston Medical Center to the Department of Health and Human Services. It's to another one to reduce opioid overdose and engage the community. Try to get them to educate them on overdose prevention, access to opioid use disorder services, and Naxaline, getting the EpiPens to people so they can save lives for potential overdose.
Questions from council?
I do, Madam Chair.
Sure.
TJ, good afternoon again. I think you meant to say Narcan, right?
Yeah, Narcan. Well, this has a different version of it, but Narcan's the one we've been talking about. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So 37,350 cents. I'm just curious where that specific number 40% came from, reduce overdose death.
Where the number came from?
Yeah, I found it very specific.
Yeah, well, that's the grant application says the goal is to reduce overdose deaths by 40%. I don't know if that's a set number in fact, or if that's just the goal of the grant.
Okay, and so I'm just not clear. Is this going to be education and Narcan, or?
This education of the public so they can understand and get educated on the impacts of opioid overdose, and making sure people understand Narcan and the benefits of that I guess, I mean, if I was to sum it up, I'll leave it up to Helen to sum it up, but
Right,
if
okay.
somebody's having an overdose, they feel comfortable enough calling so they can get, you know, the person they're with the help that they need in order to save their lives.
Okay, and again, this is gonna be through the city, it's not gonna be distributed to any other entity?
For Boston Medical Center directly through DPH to the city.
Specifically to the city?
Thank you, Counselor Davila.
That was a question for TJ. I'm just saying it's gonna be
Oh.
for the city only, right?
Because I can barely hear you, that's why I'm sorry.
I don't know, I seem to be, is that gonna, TJ, that's only for the city to use? The city's not gonna give it?
Yeah, for HHS to use.
Okay, thank you, TJ.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Letterman?
I was just gonna say, if you open up the attachment on the agenda, it looks like it's through the fire department. I think this is for the supplies for the fire department's Narcan. That's what it appears to be.
Okay. All righty.
All right, thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Counselor. Number 15, the Young Adults Empowerment Collaborative Grant.
Yeah, this is to teach young adults, their parents about identity and data-driven youth development programs, preventing and addressing young adult misuse of evidence-based program support, transition, engaging families in the roles to support young adults. It is a Franklin County Sheriff's Department grant to the Health and Human Services Department.
Questions from counselors? Thank you. 16, the Community Mitigation Grant, $22,500, no match.
Yep, this is mitigation money that the police department is getting because we have a casino in our downtown, and it's to purchase storage units and traffic cones.
Traffic cones and storage units?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we have a big event, we have the materials ready to kind of roll the police out there and keep the traffic flowing.
And we appreciate that. Got some big events coming up.
Now,
You have a question, Counselor?
I do because, thank you. You know, we had community mitigation, that label on 16 and 7, well, we're on 16 and 17. On number 7, we also had community mitigation. Are they the same or are they?
one was for the police department and the other one's for defibrillators for the fire department.
And there was also.
But they come from the same source, like from the casino?
Economic development, fire, and police all apply for their own separate mitigation grants, and all 3 got them.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's good. Any other questions, Counselor Allen?
Well, and so this is different from the community. This isn't the MGM money that's called community impact.
This is gaming commission money where they have money from the licensing fees directly to the gaming commission, and then they provide grants to impacted communities, and which we've received numerous grants for.
So this is the MGM community mitigation money.
This is not the city's money. This is the money that goes to the state and is provided to us by the state gaming commission. This is the state giving us money to deal with a particular impact from having a housing casino.
And those impacts are for 7, it's the fire department, and for 16 and 17, it's the police department.
Was 7 economic development?
Economic development for the downtown blueprint and downtown in the area of MGM. And then you had 16 was the police department for the cones and the storage for the equipment we got the last round. And then the next one is the fire department for defibrillators.
And that's 22,000.
Correct.
Are you good, Counselor Allen?
Okay, I'm okay enough to go forward.
Okay.
I don't quite totally
So they
get it.
all applied, all 3 departments applied for community mitigation funds from the state, and they were all awarded separate amounts. So there were separate applications from the 3 departments, and they were all awarded, and the state gets this community mitigation funds from the licenses that people apply for to open the casinos and things like that.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right. Let me see. Hold on. I gotta let Susan in. Okay. Where are we? 18. Free library box grant, 2,000.
Yeah, so the goal of this program is to install 2 library boxes near Pigeon Plaza for them to be stocked with books to give more access to people, kids to read.
Book. Any questions about the boxes?
Do you know where they're going?
This just says Pigeon Plaza, the newly, right outside the police metro station or substation outside Pigeon Plaza, the newly renovated Pigeon Plaza.
One there and one somewhere else downtown? Or
This says both of them will be there, it looks like. At least
both will be there, okay. Thanks.
Beautiful there too. Donation to the police canine unit. A vest, I think that's.
for a canine fitness, the doghouse, and just other funds to reduce the cost of having a canine, a new canine.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Right. Number 20, Springfield Community Preservation Committee budget approval.
You know this one.
Yeah, so this is just the CPA coming for their annual budget approval for the CPA funding.
So they're gonna list all the ones that they are requesting for approval at this meeting?
No, they're not bringing the
Oh,
project.
this is just money.
Yeah, this is just for the kind of administratively how they're gonna divvy up the money into the 3 different pots. They're not right now.
All right, 'cause I was about to say this is gonna be a long meeting, okay. All right, any questions there, guys?
I have one question.
Sure.
Does this number, is this the number they give to us, or have you guys given this number to them?
We've given the number to them.
Okay,
Right now, the total amount is 2.26 million, 2.226 million of CPA revenue. And then they're gonna divvy up the categories based upon that allocation.
yep.
Is this 2020 revenue? CPA revenue?
No, this is the estimated FY22,
Oh,
the CPA excise amount on property values, property levy.
okay.
And obviously, we don't know.
It's several $100,000 bigger than it's been in the past.
So right now, 1.6 million is based upon the estimated revenue. Then the state's commitment to is roughly 540,000. They've earned roughly 13,000 in interest for a total of 2.226 million.
That's great. It's
Good.
excellent.
Bigger and bigger, we can do more. Any other questions, Counselor?
No, thank you.
Okay. 21, bond authorization for police department vehicles of 1 million.
Yes, so you are talking to, in addition to being capital, I am now the interim business and technology director of the Springfield Police Department. We're requesting 18 new vehicles, starting turning over the fleet of marked and unmarked cars. So we're asking for $1 million to be allocated through bond authorization to stop the purchasing process.
Do we have a bond authorization for new vehicles last year?
Yes, was it last year that we did it? Maybe a year, if not a little over a year or so ago. This is for us to stay on top of the fleet. We've had a number of cars damaged due to just having the everyday wear and tear, but we've also had a number of accidents where new cars have been damaged. So we're trying to stay on top of that.
And 2 to 1.
Oh yeah, we're going, we had the 2-to-1. The vehicles we had a lot of wear and tear because we had 1 officer per vehicle instead of 2
Oh, yeah.
vehicle. So we really wore out our vehicles. And so in addition to this, we'll be looking to probably do another 20 vehicles in the coming months using COVID, our rescue plan funds as well.
Okay, that's understandable.
Was this planned, TJ?
Yes, this was planned. The ones that we're replacing this was planned for the wear and tear ones. There's a number of vehicles that just got destroyed during the, act of doing police business in the city. So.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions on that?
No, I'm all set. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. All right, free cash to OPEB trust. I don't know why that made me happy, but 734,699.
Yeah, so we've adopted a policy to move 10% of our free cash number into the OPEB trust. That's for post-employment benefits for our retirees. It does not really put a significant dent into the liability we have, but it shows that we have a consistent policy that we're adhering to.
But we got about 7 million free cash
Yes. We had
for FY 21.
And then, so you can extrapolate what Mr. Burns said earlier. We're looking 13 to 15 million in free cash for FY 21 when we close out the year and get it certified by DOR. So we're heading in the right direction for all that.
You said 15 million free cash or?
13 to 15. I never know what DOR is going to include or not include. If we get revenue that we weren't anticipating, so it could grow, could be around that area.
Because I thought the 13 million that Pat said earlier was for FY 22. From
FY 21 to be certified during fiscal 22.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
December timeframe.
All righty. So some counselors may have missed that earlier when Pat said that. He'll say it again because we don't have time. But
yeah,
he'll say it again during the regular meeting. All right, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Let's see, budget transfer across department, 20,000.
Yeah, so this is a transfer to the Office of Procurement. We're required to advertise in the newspaper every time we put out a bid. We don't know in any given year how many RFPs we'll do, so this is to get them through the remainder of the fiscal year.
Which department, I'm sorry?
Procurement. We have to advertise anytime.
Oh, advertise.
Bid.
Okay. All right, any questions there? And do we only advertise in the Republican?
I don't know. I have to double check the law, but it's got to be a certain circulation that you're required to advertise in the Republican if someone that meets the major circulation requirement.
We advertise other places, but the Republican is the only place that we pay per ad.
It's the only place we pay. Okay. All right. Any questions there? Because I think that the publication should go into community-based advertisement as well. Just so certain communities look at different papers, they can understand different newspapers. So I think that we should broaden that a little bit, but that's something that we can discuss at another time because it is now 4:44 and I beat the time by 1 minute. And so I just want to ask the committee if we want to accept these or not.
Well, I would prefer to, personally, I would like to see us take a vote, but there were a couple things that we were going to take out of the motion. If I'm not mistaken, it was number 2, and I'm not sure what else.
I think it was number 2, and then if the police captain.
Plan that has bigger picture implications.
Yeah. The police captain does not show up. We're probably going to take that one out as well. So.
Number 11.
Number 11, right?
You should be calling in later.
The burn jag grant, yeah.
Yeah, that's been what the woman who runs housing. I'm drawing a blank on her name right now, but she's been running. McCafferty, Jerry McCafferty she's been the person on the burn jag grant for years. I don't know how it relates to Shannon and to the other anti-violence thing, but it was mainly a housing thing, and it had a piece in it with gang violence. I don't know if she'll be there tonight, so I can't speak to it enough to I can only say that we've been voting on it for several years. But if we're taking out number 2 and number 11 for now, with the chance that Officer Kent will come, I would make a motion that we approve the other items except for number 2 and number 11.
I may cancel Tim, Madam Chair, before the motion is made, if I could.
I'm sorry, Councilor Davila, I did not hear you.
Yeah, good. I couldn't hear you.
1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. You hear me?
No, you gotta speak up. It's very soft.
You guys hear me now?
It's really hard.
Oh, it's
I
weird.
don't
Really
know what's
hard.
happening with the mic.
Oh, no.
It's better.
Okay. So no, I was just saying, if I could, before Councilor, we entertain the motion, 9 and 14, if the commission is, for whatever reason, is not able to make it, I would like to table
For the
the
opioid ones,
opioids one. If she's there, I'd be happy with. So I don't know how to work it out if we,
Well, we still talk about these things at the meeting. It's just, you know, I'm hoping Helen will be there because I think your two that you were concerned about, Victor, were the opioid ones, 9 and 14.
Correct.
And hopefully Helen will be there tonight.
if not, we can table it at the
so
meeting.
can we say approve the orders as accepted, except for 2, 9, 11, and 14?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll make that motion. We
Okay.
accept all the others except for 2, 9, 11, and 14.
Okay,
On the motion, Madam Chair.
yes,
I'm hopeful that the commissioner will be at the meeting, but Councilor Davila, please feel free to contact me, as well as HHS committee has done extraordinary work with the department on these grants, and I'm happy to give you some more insight as to what they're spent on. But I would really be concerned about seeing them tabled later today.
Well, if you can provide more light at the meeting, Councilor Lehman, that would be
Sure.
okay. Yeah, so, you know, if we could move forward, then I'm sure Councilor Letterman can, you know, shed some light. And at that time, I don't mind voting them in.
so except 2 and 11, back to 2 and 11. That's the motion. Okay,
Second,
all in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we are all set here, and we are going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for joining and for your patience with me expediting the meeting right through.
And does anybody know what link will be on for the 5 o'clock meeting?
I think it's the same link.
Same link?
Yeah.
Okay.
this
Thank
same
you.
one as this one, right? Okay, all right, thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'll pay the invoice.
Hey, Christopher, this is Steve with Focus Springfield. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, great. I can hear you really well. Just wanted to make sure that we had that connection.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Others will be joining us in just a little bit. I just wanted to make sure that was happening.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Steve,
Oh, hi, Tim.
I never got off. They said it was the same link, so.
Yeah, I just figured to keep it open so that we don't have any hiccups or burps.
Yep, it's fine. Hello, Chris. I'm Tim Allen.
Hi, Councilor Allen. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
And we have a Rosa Jones is entering the room. She looks like she connected to audio. Miss Jones, can you hear me? This is Steve Carey.
Hello, how are you? I can hear you.
We're doing great. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure you could hear everybody.
Yes.
Hi, Rosa. I'm introducing myself. I'm Tim Allen, the City Council.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And this is Steve Carey. I'm just welcoming Cateri Walsh and Gladys and making sure you can hear me and making sure that we can hear you.
Thank you, Stephen. I can't see myself on the
I can't either. You know what?
gallery. Am I on the right link?
You're in the right link, and we've got a number of other folks on. I think if you hover your cursor down to the bottom left, you might see an icon for video, start video come up.
Start video. I have that off. Okay, I see that. Oh, okay.
There we go. Excellent. And Gladys, are you able to hear us? We can see you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you great.
Perfect.
All right, good luck to all. Here's Councilor Fenton joining, and I'll be here if you need me. Hello, we have somebody who just joined from an iPhone. I don't know if you can hear us, but can you tell?
I can. It's Camille.
Oh, Camille, thank you. And Camille, Let me get your proper spelling of your last name, please.
Nelson Campbell.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Fenton,
Yes,
are you going to be establishing the procedure for the meeting?
if that's what the council president would like, then yes, I'm ready to do that.
Aren't you the chair of the committee?
I am, yes, but we're meeting in a special session tonight.
Oh, okay, all right.
Hello, everyone. We'll get started shortly. It's good to see you all.
I said hi to Rosa and Christopher. Hi, Gladys.
Hi, Counselor.
How are you?
And for your information, this is Steve Carey. We do have somebody on an iPhone who keeps trying to join us, but isn't succeeding. So I'm accepting them, but there is one person who seems to be having a challenge getting on, and the only way they're labeled is iPhone.
Thank you, Steve.
Has anyone seen my cat? Just kidding.
Tom, you are real tan, Tom Moore.
That time of the year.
Yeah. I was like, okay, somebody been on vacation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Nobody can hear me?
We can hear you, Victor.
Oh, there you go.
We can hear you.
I can hear you.
You just didn't know what to say.
Because say, hola.
Hola.
Just for your information, Councilor Davila, your microphone is a little low. So
Yeah.
I might be able to help you with that another time.
Yeah, I don't know. I was having that issue before. That's why I was doing a quick test. But you guys hear me okay now if I speak up louder, right?
I could hear you.
I believe we have 10 counselors online, just waiting for 3 others before we get started. We have a pretty timeline today, so I don't want to waste too much time waiting on other folks. And since we do have a quorum, I think I will just let folks filter in as they do. But I thank you all for joining this evening. It's June 7th, and the time is now 5:03. And this is a special meeting to potentially elect and appoint, I should say, our next city clerk for the city of Springfield, Massachusetts. Before I begin, I just want to mention that we are on an hour and 20-minute time crunch due to one of the constraints by Focus Springfield, who will need to transition to the next meeting after that for public speak out. So without further ado, let's just go ahead get started. Madam Clerk, can you start please with just taking the roll?
Yes. Counselor Edwards.
Present.
Present Counselor Letterman.
Present.
Present Counselor Gomez. Absent Counselor Allen.
Present.
Present Counselor Curran.
Present.
Present Counselor Whitfield.
Here.
Present Counselor Ramus.
Present.
Present Counselor Brown.
Present.
Present Counselor Walsh.
Present.
Present Counselor Davila.
Present.
Present Counselor Fenton.
Present.
Present Counselor Hurst. Counselor Hurst. Absent Counselor Williams.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I thought Counselor Hurst is actually present, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Hurst.
Present.
Present.
Yes. You're a little low, Counselor. You might want to test it out a couple times.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right.
All right. All right. Good evening, counselors and guests. Thank you for joining this evening as we appoint the next city clerk of Springfield, as I had mentioned. Before we begin, I want to mention that in the essence of fairness, it has been my attention and intention, I should say, to have an open and transparent process. Those who wanted to have a chance to secure this job should have had the opportunity. And for that reason, I appointed Counselor Fenton to chair the search process, as well as Counselors Davila and Edwards to join him in that agenda. They recently worked to review over 70 application packets and have selected the finalists we have before us today. So to my colleagues on that subcommittee, we should all appreciate the time and thoroughness it took to complete this effort. So I'll just say thank you for that. Again, I just want to emphasize that before we begin, I will let folks know that we have a 6:20 sharp cutoff time as requested by Focus Springfield. And if we do not complete the process in that time, I will entertain a motion at the end to continue this matter for a second meeting. So without further ado, I will pass it off to Chairman Fenton of the City Clerk search process to provide a committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank you as well as my colleagues on the committee, Councilors Edwards and Davila. We put many hours into this selection process, and it was a terrific experience working with both Councilors Edwards and Davila in this committee format. We were very collaborative and focused on a very difficult task, which was limiting the some 70 plus applications, over 15 of whom possessed master's and advanced degrees, down to the 3 candidates that you have before you here this evening. So I would just quickly summarize through this report the actions of the committee. We met 3 successive evenings. The position was posted, the position of city clerk was posted in the same manner in which it was for the last 2 vacancies. And that posting was opened on May 14th, very quickly after we learned of the former city clerk's opportunity to move on to the law department. And that was open for 2 weeks. And so after that, we had our first meeting the following Tuesday, which was the first available day after Memorial Day. And we met for several hours, over 617 pages of material. And we reviewed each and every line and page of that material. After our first meeting, we limited by vote of the committee, the applicants from 72 down to 18. And the first way that we limited those applications was by asking ourselves 3 questions. The first is, do they possess the requisite degree, which was a bachelor's degree according to the posting? Second, do they live in Springfield? Or if they don't, did they answer the question in the application indicating that they would be willing to move in as a condition of employment within 12 months of the hire date? And then the third question we asked ourselves was, do they have any relevant experience that would qualify them for this job? And so after going through that inquiry, we limited from 72 down to 18 applicants. And we had 3 more successive rounds of reviews and eliminations. We went from 18 down to 9, 9 down to 5, 5 down to 4. And then we voted to grant the interviews to these 3 very well credentialed and accomplished people that you have before you here this evening. We did all of that by the end of our second meeting, which took place the next night on June 2nd. Each of these meetings were over 2 hours. Some of them were over 3. And on the third meeting, which took place on, excuse me, June 3rd, we interviewed each of these applicants. And each interview was scheduled for 30 minutes. And based on those interviews, we felt that it was appropriate for the council to see all 3 of them and to consider them for the open position of city clerk here tonight. The last thing we did, Mr. President, was you asked that we make a recommendation to you with respect to how tonight's meeting would be organized and how best to allow the applicants to make their case to the council and have an effective inquiry and potentially voting process from there. And so we did that in the form of a written document and voted to approve it and send it to the council president. So if you'd like, I can summarize that now.
Feel free.
Okay. So we recommended is that we start the meeting tonight with each applicant getting 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes for an opening statement. From there, if counselors have any questions for the applicant, each counselor would be permitted to ask up to 1 question per applicant for 2 minutes per question. And then we would do that successively for all 3 candidates. And at the conclusion, the president, if there's time, would call the roll on the election of the city clerk and would go in the order of our seating chart, 1 by 1, and counselors would say the name of the individual that they wish to be the next city clerk from the 3 nominated persons. So that's what we recommended for our process, and that is our report. Again, I want to thank the council president as well as councilors Edwards and Davila for their extensive commitment and work on this. It was a tough task, and we endeavored to get it done quickly, and I'm very proud of the result. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Fenton. And we can, without further ado, just jump right in. You've heard enough of us speak, and now we can turn the floor over to the finalists this evening. So going in alphabetical order, we'll start. Madam Clerk, can you please call Rosa Jones?
Rosa Jones?
Yes, present.
All right. Mrs. Jones is present. Ms. Jones, can you please state your name and address for the record, and then please explain why you are willing to serve and why you would be the best candidate to be the next city clerk.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Rosa Jones. I'm currently in Jonesboro, Georgia, 8119 Winfield Drive in Jonesboro, Georgia. I believe what I'm trying to bring to this position is the maximum positivity that I can. Fresh eyes, fresh ears. I want to be able to provide help to everyone that needs it, protect everything that needs protection that I'm able to do. I want to be able to come in with a smile so you can hear it, you can feel it. I'm a person that loves to learn and loves to be able to sit here and help everyone as much as I can. I know I don't have, or I haven't been in Springfield in over 18 years, maybe even a little bit longer, but I know that with the knowledge that I have received in Atlanta, Georgia, working for the State Board of Workers' Compensation for the last 15 years, that I'm able to bring some new knowledge and some new insight onto everything that is going on and everything that I can provide.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Jones, for that. I will now entertain questions from the counselors to the candidate at this time. Counselor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Jones, would you just tell us a little bit more about your education and about what you do in your current role?
Yes, I currently have my master's in business administration with a concentration in human resources. I currently work for the State Board of Workers' Compensation Alternative Dispute Division. I supervise 3 secretaries, 12 mediators. Included in those 12 mediators, there are 3 judges, administrative law judges. I handle all the calendaring. I handle all notices that go out to the injured worker. I handle the motions, orders, and awards that happen to go out to any of the outside parties. Also handle the certification that needs to go out to anyone from the Alternative Dispute Division. I supervise the 3 secretaries, which is the scheduling, anything that goes on. I also handle the annual performance reviews for everyone there. And I also am currently working on my doctorate in business administration.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Counselor Fenton. Counselor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. Rosa, thanks for applying and thanks for bringing your skills and qualifications
Thank you.
to the process. I am mostly interested in your management ability and experience. How would you characterize the management that you do? Is it day to day? Is it project based at all, or is it day to day getting things out the door, kind of transactional stuff, or is it more? And how do you feel you do? What your strengths are in terms of managing a group of people?
It is a mixture of project-based as well as day-to-day management. We have a computer system we call ICMS. I handle any of the IT issues, if anything goes on, anything that needs to be upgraded, or anything that we suggest that we may need to better the system. The secretarial part, I do manage them. It could get crazy sometimes. Sometimes it works well. I think I had that on just like with the project base. I try to go in with open ears, open arms, as some would say, and try to get as much information that I can on everything. So for me, my management skills is really, let's get everything written down. Let's see what we can do. Let's try to come to an agreement. I'm not the aggressive type when it comes to certain management skills, but I am someone that they feel comfortable coming to and relatable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Allen. And counselors, can I just ask that you please lower your hand, as I am for some reason unable to this evening. Counselor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank you, Rosa, for applying. And for being here. I know it's definitely an interesting process. I just was kind of curious. My thing is Springfield is very community orientated. I was just curious on the fact of where you're living at. Are you from Springfield? Are you familiar with the area of Springfield? Are you just moved out of the area, but you're a Springfield native? Just curious.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Springfield, Massachusetts. I am in the process of relocating back to Massachusetts within the next 30 days, and we'll be moving to East Long Meadow with my parents until I can get everything situated. So I'm familiar with the Springfield area.
Okay, thank you, Rosa. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Jones, for being here and applying for such an important role. I was just in Jonesboro like 2 weeks ago. I stayed there, got an Airbnb there when I visited the Atlanta area. So it was a wonderful place to be. And so I just wanted to ask, so you're going to deal with not only the customers or the residents of Springfield, you also will have to manage staff, but also do work related to the city council. We have long meetings, sometimes a lot of meetings. How will you delegate your task? How will you manage such a, I'm gonna say complicated role in managing different people and their personalities? Because I mean, it's the community, but we also have 13 different personalities and plus staff.
For me, I like trying to get to know everyone that I'm working with. That way I know what their strengths are personally instead of seeing them on paper or anything. I try to get that type of rapport with the people that I am going to work with or are working with. And that way I have an idea of what the strengths are, what weaknesses are. So I should be able at that point, once I know who I'm working with, how the delegation can go. I have tough skin, so I don't mind delegating, even though it may be a little reluctance on the other side, but we all have a job to do. We all have to serve our community. That's what we're here for. So I don't have a problem handling that part at all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, thank you. I do have a question for the applicant, and I'm going to ask the same question of all three finalists. But before I do, Mr. President, I also have some questions regarding the process, the procedure. Would it be best if I save those for after all three speak?
Yes, Councilor, please.
Okay, I'll do that. So, Ms. Jones, my question to you, a very simple question. Just wanted to hear from you what you thought your greatest strengths are that you bring to this position, and what your biggest weakness, in your opinion.
Persistence. Sometimes when you're working on a task, you have to be very persistent. You have to get into the gut of what you're doing, and sometimes that can come out as being a little pushy, which I've been told that I can do, but at the end of the day, I do get what needs to be done. So for me, I believe that's a gift and a curse, because sometimes if I ask a question, I may ask it multiple times in different ways, but I want to make sure that I have the information correct.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you hear me, or am I muted?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. Like my colleague, Councilor Ramos, I'm going to ask each applicant a question, and I think you're all very brave to come before us in this format and talk about yourself and your abilities. And I'm happy so many people want to work with us. But I'd like to know what your experience has been in government or city government or elected office, anything like that you've been involved with that you can share with us.
I have not been involved in any of the city government or anything like that. I have worked with the State Board of Workers' Compensation the last 15 years. I've worked with several judges, but I haven't personally been working, with government officials. So this will be a new experience that I welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon to all of the candidates. Thank you for taking the time to come before us and your consideration in the position. I'm at-large Councilor Jesse Letterman, and I'll also be asking the same question to all three finalists, which is to say that, the city clerk's position is a really unique elected position in that, it is directly elected by the Springfield City Council, but also works in a day-to-day way in City Hall with the administration while still reporting to the council and engaging very directly with the public. So how do you see yourself sort of navigating that unique position in terms of the report to the city council, the election by the city council, and the sort of intergovernmental working, interdepartmental working that is necessary to run the office?
I like talking. So bringing information to and from is not a problem. Working with the public is something that I love to do. So that is something that I'm actually excited about, working with more of the public, especially with the pandemic that is going on, and being able to be involved with everyone and everything that is going on. And it's, in this position, again, it's something new to me, but it's exciting. It's something that I'm ready to take on and take that challenge. So I'm ready.
Right. Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Are there any questions from the council at this time? Seeing none. Ms. Jones, will you consent to being nominated this evening, or perhaps next time?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next finalist, Christopher Lazat?
Christopher Lazat.
I am present. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Lazat, can you also just please state your name and address for the record? And please explain why you are willing to serve and why you would be the best candidate to be the next city clerk for the city of Springfield.
Thank you, President. Councilors and Rosa and Gladys, congratulate you for making it this far. This is definitely a unique experience and something I'm humbled and honored to be here tonight with all of you. Christopher Lazat, I live at 15 Texel Drive in Springfield. I think I would be a great candidate for this position because my passion for community service and giving back to our community is something that truly drives me. Prior to starting off in this journey, I did work in West Springfield as the Director of Veteran Services for years there, providing benefits to our veterans in West Springfield, but not only just West Springfield, to the Pioneer Valley. So that was my first taste of giving back to the community and providing crucial benefits through city government. And since then, I've gone to work in several other positions, all still giving back to veterans specifically. But really, that's what drives me. Like I said, and it's my ethos is giving back to those. And not only those who serve, but I do believe that everything that I've learned through my higher education, through all the other positions that I've worked in, that I'd be a great candidate. With my military experience, I have a great attention to detail. I'm passionate about streamlining certain benefits, certain documents, different things to make everything very accessible. And providing ultimately the best and most highest quality customer service to those who walk through the doors or to those who are clicking on the website to try to access forms, and at the same time making sure that everything is meticulously documented while maintaining a professional staff that is providing that same level of expertise and customer service to the constituents of Springfield.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Lazat. Are there any questions from the council at this time? Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. Hi, Christopher Lazat. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming and being part of this process. I looked at your Mass Mutual experience, the diversity inclusion consultant, and also prior to that, West Springfield, and most recently Mass Bay Community College. I didn't get a sense, I got a sense for someone who gets things done and is able to pick up details of what you're working on and things of that nature. Could you discuss what you learned about management in each of those areas, and what your management assignments were, who you reported to, and what the percentage of your job, if you will, was management functions versus analytical or detail functions?
A lot of my management, and Counselor, thank you for the question. A lot of my management that I learned obviously was through the military, but over time I've had to do a lot of project-based management, hosting different organizational projects, such as the Wall That Heals, where I had to oversee hundreds of folks to make sure that we were delivering on what we set out to do. At the town of West Springfield, I did oversee one staff member for a short time. Budget constraints were kind of keeping us from being able to have an additional staff member. But even at working at Mass Mutual, I oversaw a business resource group that had hundreds of veterans and allies to the veteran military community, and had to provide mentorship and different types of management through that. And then currently right now, I've only been at Mass Bay for a short time, but again, same similar type of management. It's mostly project based.
So direct supervision at Mass Mutual or at Mass Bay, one or two people type of thing?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the good answers.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for applying, and thank you for your service. I don't know if we learned a little bit about your background and your education, if you wouldn't mind sharing that again.
Sure. So I thank you, Counselor. I started off in my educational career really working over at Holyoke Community College. Was interested in becoming a police officer, but just didn't end up going that path. But I did complete my undergraduate in criminal justice at Becker College. And that's where I started learning that I really wanted to give back to the community. But at that time, it was more specific to veterans. So I started working with homeless veterans, working for Veterans Inc. in Worcester. I was then offered the job at West Springfield as a director of veteran services, and then at the same time started my graduate career, getting my master's in business administration at Cambridge College at the Springfield campus in downtown Tower Square, and then continued to move forward in my career and progress forward, and got a great opportunity to become a diversity inclusion consultant at Mass Mutual, learning a lot of different great things and educational components to that job. And then ultimately really decided that the corporate life wasn't for me. You don't have direct contact with the community. You don't have direct focus on helping others in like that direct sense. So that's really what I wanted to get back into. And then when I saw this position open up, I was certainly intrigued and really wanted to put my name in the hat. Thank you, Councilor.
So that kind of sort of answers the question I'm interested in, and what your experiences or relations have been in city government or elected politics.
Yes, the director of veteran services was kind of my most directly correlated position with city government, working for the mayor there.
Okay, and are you currently living in Springfield?
Yes, Texel Drive in Springfield.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Walsh. Counselor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chris, it's nice to meet you and to hear your background, as it was with all the applicants. I also work in non-traditional higher ed, so I'm glad to hear about your work there. My question will be the same as it was for the first applicant, relative to how you see the position and the sort of nuance of being appointed by and reporting to the city council, but working day to day in City Hall in interdepartmental collaboration with the mayor's administration, and of course, also the public facing role as well.
Councilor, thank you for the question. As I stated before, serving the public is something that I know I'm good at. I really do enjoy serving those that, you know, that the council and that the clerk's office would, you know, be serving. And I do understand that it's an interesting dynamic with working and reporting directly to the council, but then also working directly correlated to the mayor's office and the rest of the administration. As I approach any position, and even just in life in general, I do take things in a very bipartisan way, making sure that, you know, the rules and regulations are being followed, the constituents' needs are being met. You know, and obviously reporting directly to, in this position would be directly reporting to the city council, at the same time making sure that the rules and regulations that are, you know, that are being brought down from Secretary Galvin's office from the state level are being met, and making sure that everything is done appropriately and properly, all the while being transparent. So making sure that, you know, that the council would know everything that's going on with the clerk's office, and at the same time with the mayor's office knowing, but in a very bipartisan way.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, thank you. Same question that I asked the previous applicant. What would you say is the biggest strength that you bring to this position, and where do you need to improve the most?
Thank you, Councilor. One of my greatest strengths is that sense of community service, is always giving back, even extracurricularly. I still give back with the VFW and other nonprofit organizations. So really I like being in the fishbowl, so to speak. So, you know, being in public's eye, making sure that I'm doing things right, having a high sense of integrity, at the same time, making sure that the customer needs are being met. So that really is one of my strengths. I think one of my weaknesses is I do like to work too hard sometimes. So I know in past jobs, normally you see the clock run out at 5 o'clock, but you're staying till 5, 6 o'clock, or even 7 o'clock. And I know this position, you know, there's quite a few meetings that you do have to attend after hours. But one of the things that I definitely know I could work on better is delegating responsibilities and making sure that everyone has a piece of the pie, so to speak, and that they get to contribute. So team members would have to, you know, make sure that they're contributing and I'm not doing all the work, so to speak. So I'd say that's one of my weaknesses. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Are there any other questions from the council at this time? Ask any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Lizotte, will you agree to be nominated this evening?
Yes, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call our last finalist?
Gladys Oyola.
Great, thank you, Madam Clerk. Gladys, can you please state your name and address for the record? Can you also please explain why you are willing to serve and why you would be the best candidate to be the next city clerk?
Good evening, councilors, Christopher and Rosa. My name is Gladys Oyola Lopez. I live at 38 Roland Street in the city of Springfield, Ward 1. You know, in preparation for the interview process and applying for the job, one of the things that I had to go through was creating a resume, which I hadn't done in about 10 years. And I was surprised at the common thread that kind of wove its way through my experience, which is honestly public service. So over the past 20 plus years, I have been working for both the state and local government on different levels. And it really is kind of a passion of mine personally, but also professionally. Serving the citizens of Springfield, serving the citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has become something that not only do I have a passion for, but I believe I'm very good at. Serving the citizens of Springfield specifically has become something that working in city government has allowed me to work with other departments and has enabled me to see where there's a need. And I think that the city clerk's office being a hub for many of the services, because they provide vital records for births, deaths, marriages. We're the keeper of the records. So the city clerk's office keeps the records indefinitely for anyone who has ever, was ever born in the city of Springfield. And I think there's kind of a great value to that. And it's something that I think I definitely would be, would excel at.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Oyola Lopez. Council, do you have any questions for the candidate at this time? Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Commissioner Oyola. You know, you currently work for the city, and so my question is, I'm not really, I don't really understand how the role would change. Would you still be the commissioner of the elections office along with the city clerk? Would someone else be hired to manage the elections office? And I say this because simultaneously there could be a lot going on in both offices. And so I wanted to hear more about how, if you are going to oversee both offices, how you would manage those tasks. And you know, how do you feel about adding so much more workload to your current position?
Thank you for the question, Councilor Whitfield. That's something that I really had to sit back and think about when the position opened up, because my current position as commissioner is something that I'm very, very proud of, right? So the work that I do there, I would not want it to suffer by taking on additional roles in the city clerk's office. And how I envision that being able to happen is in other cities and towns, Lawrence, Holyoke, the city clerk really is the one who oversees both elections and public records and all of the vital records. What they do is they have someone that comes in and steps in and does the managing of the day-to-day in elections. So in a bigger city, like for example, Lawrence, they have an assistant that would help with elections during election time, because that really is a seasonal type of busy. If we say there's peaks and valleys, last year during the 2020 election, there would have been no way for me to be the election commissioner and the city clerk at the same time. That's just not feasible. You know, that 4-year peak that we experienced last year really required my full attention. So how I envision that happening is having a deputy election commissioner that would be able to step in during those times when my attention is needed by the city clerk's office. I also think the city clerk's office itself is a full-time job. And the city clerk's office is a front-facing office. It's one of the busiest offices in City Hall. So therefore, the assistant that works in the office now is responsible for managing day-to-day operations, so to speak. And I vision like a partner in that in the elections.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, thank you, Gladys, and all three of you for coming forward in a public forum. So, you know, most of us know you because we have to go there and get our nomination papers, so we know you. But can you also tell us a little bit about your background before you got there? And that leads me to my next question about city government and elective office.
Sure. So before my most current iteration as election commissioner, I worked at University of Massachusetts. I also worked at state level at the House of Representatives as a legislative aide firstly, and then as a chief of staff, and then as a legislative director for Cheryl Coakley Rivera. But really, honestly, my city government experience or my experience in government comes from my mom. So she was a caseworker at the North Citizens Council, and I would volunteer there after work every day, pretty much. And that was a public service agency. So it's an agency that's still in existence in Springfield. And I would answer questions, I would answer the phone, and the services that they provided there were so important to the community. And I was able to see how they lobbied city councilors, how they lobbied state senators, state representatives, even Congress people to be able to get funding to help the community. So to help the North End, to help the different programs that they offered there. So that really was my first entry, I would say at about 10 or 12 years old.
that answers, you were able to answer both questions at once. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. Gladys, welcome, Gladys. We all know you as election commissioner, and you clearly have on your resume shown a lot of professional development in the area of city clerk, et cetera. My question will be a similar question to what I asked the other candidates. You have been managing an office, and so we've seen that office function, et cetera. But with a bigger responsibility, I know you just answered the thing about a deputy city clerk or a deputy election commissioner potentially. But could you talk about your management ability and how you've run the election office and how you would apply that same ability to a bigger responsibility and a newer responsibility for city clerks?
I didn't learn management. So when I started as an election assistant, I worked in tandem with the people in the office. So basically I learned my management style from working with the other employees in the office. I would say that my management style is kind of that of a servant leader, if anything. So somebody who is really interested in coaching, learning, making sure that the staff skills levels are constantly improving, because that was how I was able to become a leader in my office, right? So that's something that I do offer my staff. The unfortunate part about that is the more I train, the more I offer professional development, the more turnover there is, because people get better jobs in the city or better jobs outside of the city, which is a great thing. But it has constantly made me hone my training skills internally. And that's something that I would bring to the city clerk's office. I think it's very important in all of our city departments that the front-facing staff is as well-trained as possible. And that if I was given the honor of being appointed city clerk, would be something that I would offer, is training for the staff so that they're able to, when I'm not here in the office physically, answer questions, higher level questions, and not have to wait for me or for the assistant city clerk to answer those questions or to put out those fires. I think that's the best part of the office that I have now, the election commission, is that the staff there is so well trained and so capable that I don't always have to be there. I love being there because I do love the work of the elections office, but my staff, they've got it under control.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is similar to Councilor Allen. So I believe that Gladys answered it. Thank you for being here, Gladys. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, thank you. Same question that I asked the previous two applicants, Gladys. What would you say is the biggest strength that you bring to this position? And what would you say is the weakness where you need to improve?
My greatest strength, I would say, is my ability to acknowledge that I don't know everything. So I ask a ton of questions. I ask questions all the time. And I think that's helped me create relationships within the city, because anytime a constituent asks me a question, I don't transfer them to the department. I'll call that department, I'll get the answer myself. And then for the next time I have the answer. I've done that all along. It's something that I think as a kid, we used to have these Encyclopedia Britannicas that I would run to before Google. And I would constantly, reference them because I just wanted to know for myself. On the same flip side of that coin, I think my biggest weakness is that I can get into the weeds sometimes, so I overthink things. So if you ask me a question, I will research it to death. I will, look up constitutional law, even though I'm not an attorney and I don't pretend to be one. But I have that need to know, so that can be a weakness as well.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner, it's nice to see you. And I would just finally pose the same question to you that I posed to the first two candidates. How do you view sort of the unique nature of the clerk's office in terms of its appointment by the city council and its reporting to the city council, but also the necessity for it to function well by working collaboratively, interdepartmentally with the mayor's administration and obviously the public facing side of it as well.
The question itself is similar to the position I find myself in right now. So currently as election commissioner, I serve at the will of the mayor. He's the one who appointed me. But I also have to serve under Secretary Galvin. I have to make sure that both my supervisors, my bosses are well informed that I'm doing the work that they both asked me to do. And in working with the council and with the mayor, I think I would operate in a similar fashion because I think we all have one common goal, even though there's 13 councilors, there is a mayor. The one common goal is to serve the residents of Springfield. And I think by following procedures and the protocols, by really staying true to the oath that I would swear as the city clerk, I think I could do the work without being biased, without being partisan at all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Are there any other councilors with questions this evening? Any other questions? Seeing none, Commissioner Oyola, will you consent to be nominated this evening?
Yes.
All right. All right. Well, thank you to the finalists for first your interest in the position and your willingness to carry it out under some unusual circumstances. This is a Zoom interview. And we have a lot to look forward to, but I do appreciate your flexibility and making sure that takes place. So now we have approximately, I'd say 30 minutes left. I'll entertain some deliberation at this time amongst the council. And I will first hand that off to Councilor Ram, who had a comment, I believe.
Mr. President, I have a question, and I believe this would be a question for Attorney Moore, if he could weigh in. Attorney Moore, what was the posted salary for this position?
That's a good question, Counselor. I don't know the answer to that. HR would probably be off the top of their head and know the answer to what the tiers are for city clerk. I don't know that off the top of my head. Sorry.
Councilor Fenton, do you know the answer to the question?
I can get it for you. I know it was between 92,000 and 93,000. If you'd like, I can get the exact figure, but it was between 92 and 93.
Was it a range or was it just a one salary? And is that salary negotiable?
It was one listed salary item, and I understand that, as with all department heads, that's negotiable.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part. Based on what?
And based on my understanding and the fact that it's a department head position, it's my understanding that that's negotiable based on experience.
Based on experience, okay. So, Mr. President, I do have some I do have additional questions regarding this topic, and I don't know who would be the appropriate. Is there anyone from HR on this call?
Councilor, I did speak with Bill Mahoney before the meeting, and what he advised me is that there was a specific detail-oriented question about, like, say, benefits or something to that nature. They'd be happy to answer that first thing in the morning and get back to the council. He said you might have to defer on specific, HR-related questions until tomorrow, just to get some clarity on something specific like that.
Okay, so I looked up, Mr. President, just for the record, I looked up previous salaries for this position. I know that Wayman Lee was a special case because he was with the city for so long, but I believe he was making the 120, 130 range when he retired. When we hired Attorney Anthony Wilson for the position, he was hired at a salary of $100,000, and then he was making about $110,000 when he left the position. We hired City Clerk Tina Davis with a starting salary of $100,000, and she was making $103,000 base salary when she left the position. And so I'm just wondering why there was a decrease in the amount of money that was this position was advertised. In addition to that, Mr. President, I think that it is. I think that it would be unfair to expect someone to run more than one department without any additional compensation. And so that is a very, very big concern for me. I want to make sure that if we select the election commissioner with this position, and she is required to run more than one department, that she should be compensated accordingly. So, I don't know when I'll get answers to that question, but I just want to make sure that is the case, because that would be fair, especially considering that there were the previous 3 people who held this position were making a lot more than what it was posted for.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos, for that context, which is indeed important. And Attorney Moore, hopefully we can work through you to get that question answered with HR included.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Attorney Moore. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Mr. President, before I pose my question, I have to say that I'm a little, maybe it was a logistical glitch, I don't know, but I'm just, I would have thought that somebody from the HR would have been here today. And it's not settling well with me having to check with HR tomorrow morning after the fact. So that's not settling too hard with me right now. But my question is to Attorney Moore, just kind of picking off of what Councilor Ramos was saying. Actually, I think it was Councilor Fenton, my apologies. So the salary range, it says negotiable, but negotiable with who? Who's going to negotiate that?
Mr. President, I'm happy to.
Yes, Councilman Fenton.
So just to be clear, the council doesn't set the salary for any position. We didn't set the salary for this position, and we wouldn't be involved in the negotiation of the salary after the position is filled. So I played no role in the posting of that amount of the salary, and that salary issue would be left to the administration through HR and or the mayor. That's my understanding. And beyond that, I don't have any additional information about it.
Attorney Moore, do you concur with us, sir?
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that HR would take it after the election process is complete, and they would iron out the fine details. There may be something after the election is complete that prevents the actual, employment from continuing. I won't get into hypotheticals, but I think that's the nature of why HR takes it from there, and they negotiate the rest of it.
Okay, because I have to say that I agree. Well, first of all, let's not forget that we got 2 other outstanding candidates as well. But just keeping on the same line of conversation that we started, I will be extremely disappointed if a person who's being asked to take on more that it was advertised is not fairly compensated. I do have more questions, Mr. President, but for the interest of time, I wouldn't mind looping back again after my colleagues have questions.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Letterman, and just as a reminder to the councilors, we are on the 25-minute mark.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm prepared to vote and look forward to voting soon. I just had a quick question on the term of appointment. I know it's a 6-year term. We had previously appointed Attorney Wilson, who left early. We had then appointed Attorney Davis. Are we appointing for the remainder of Attorney Wilson's 6-year term, or are we appointing for a new 6-year term? And what governs whether or not we're doing that?
Attorney Moore, do you have context?
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question, Councilor. My understanding and reading of the authority here is that each appointment starts a 6-year term. And my understanding is when a councilor, a clerk resigns or retires, you're appointing someone for a 6-year term each time. So that's, it doesn't include successor language. Oftentimes, like the council's had to deal with recently, there's like a vacancy procedure for an office, but this is a different position. And I forget which councilor said it, but said it quite well. It is a strange and unique position within municipal government where it does have roles within the legislative branch and within the executive. So, my understanding of reading of the process is every appointment goes for the 6-year term.
If that is your reading, Attorney Moore, I'm happy to go with it.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just going to have to voice my opinion on the agreement with what Councilor Ramos and Councilor Davila has said. I want to reiterate that everyone should be treated equally and fairly and paid their worth. And so I don't know how the determination came about, and I know that we do not set the determinations, but I would be very displeased if these well-qualified individuals came in at a lesser salary than is normally paid. I know that for the chief of staff, the salary went up after Denise Jordan left. And so I'm wondering why the determination is to reduce the salary here. And so I'm just going to say for the record, and I'm not looking for a response, that I would be displeased with the salary being reduced for such an important role, especially if the commissioner is the one chosen today with all the roles. And I'm not saying that she will be, I'm not being presumptuous. I'm just saying there's additional work that she would have to do. So I just want to say that for the record, and I'm not looking for a response back from anyone. And I'm also displeased as well that HR didn't put it in their schedule to at least send somebody to attend this meeting. And it's been a couple of times that HR has not attended meetings where their voice and their education is needed. And I want to go on the record saying that as well.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. President. There seems to be a little ambiguity in terms of the role that the next clerk for the city of Springfield will play. It sounds like, it was made, it seems like it's clear in the posting, but I'm also hearing some discussion regarding there being other responsibilities outside of what is listed in the posting. And so I guess my question either to you or to someone else is, where is that coming from, and how can we assure that the roles and responsibilities that the clerk will have are what is in the posting?
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. I think it's a great question. I would follow Attorney Moore's suggestion of contacting HR to get more clarity around that for the full council body. I do know there was certainly a job description with tenants in it that folks felt if they were qualified enough they would apply for, and that's why we have those that we have in front of us today. But I know the mayor throughout the process did mention some extension of responsibilities for, and I guess it's kind of vague in terms of, I guess, whoever advances or if it's a particular person who advances. So, I can't speak to that directly, but I think it would be a good idea to speak with HR and get some on that.
If I could just follow up, I think the only reason why it's important is because you very well may have some candidates who are, who have applied, who might not necessarily be interested if they have an expanded role. And so I would hate to vote for someone, if later on their role is going to be comprised of something that was not in the posting.
Good point.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Davila, if you wouldn't mind, Councilor Fenton just has a point on that.
Without objection.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can share some additional information on that specific point. During the committee's deliberative process, that question of disparate responsibilities came up. And so at the committee's direction, I reached out to the mayor's office and confirmed that the mayor's public announcement about expanded roles for the city clerk, including oversight of 311 and the election commission office, was just an extension for candidate Lopez, and not if a new candidate, non-election current election commissioner candidate was to be appointed by city clerk. So if we chose someone other than the mayor's nominated person, that selection by the council would be just for the city clerk position, and Gladys would remain as election commissioner, and city clerk would have no oversight over 311 or elections.
So I appreciate that clarification, but I think that also brings me full circle to exactly what it is that we would potentially be paying this particular individual, considering that they may have, depending on who's selected, expanded roles. And so for me, I would like to get that clarification before I move forward. I'd imagine that the individuals applying for this job might also want that clarification.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be brief, sir. First, let me reiterate I'm really annoyed there's nobody here from HR. I'm really annoyed about it. With that being said, my question is to Attorney Moore. Attorney Moore, maybe I'm going to be asking you to look into a crystal ball here a little bit, but it is public knowledge of the proposal that has been put forward by administration with regards to a particular candidate. Putting aside the issue of salary, putting aside whether or not that person is qualified or not, I do have some serious questions in good terms. I need to ask this question for clear conscience before I vote, if we end up voting today. And that is that assuming that this goes forward, additional responsibilities are added, even though they were not posted onto that particular person. Down the road, the administrator changes his mind and wants to eliminate that arrangement. Does that mean that the city clerk is out as well? Or does that person cease his function, those extra functions, extra job requirement, job add-on, and reverse to just being the clerk?
Council, I'm not sure I really understand what you're asking me. If you're asking, like, in the hypothetical distant future, if a candidate happens to get appointed tonight who happens to take on extended responsibilities based on the administration's decision to do that, in the future under a new administration or the same one, if that person is removed, does that mean that they're also removed from their extended responsibilities? I really have no idea how to answer that. I don't know. I wouldn't guess, because I just don't know. I mean, at that time, would the administration have the authority to then reorganize departments? Yes, it would, because that's an executive authority to do that. So I don't know in that example what would happen. I honestly can't answer that.
So my point of question is, does that mean that the person is out of the clerk job as well? Because as far as I know, the clerk is our purview.
To hire and fire, you're saying?
If down the road with this arrangement where the person chosen takes added responsibility, and down the road, for whatever reason, whether voluntary or involuntary, that arrangement ends and that person ceases doing the extra add-on jobs, does that mean that person is out as a clerk, or does that patient just simply reverse to doing just the clerk job? In other words, if they're doing the clerk 311 election, as it was suggested by the administration, and down the road something happens, does that person just goes back to being just simply the clerk?
So could you remove the added responsibilities after the fact, you're saying?
And get rid of the clerk at the same time.
And get rid of the clerk. But you're asking, would they revert back to just being the clerk? But you're saying now if they get rid of the clerk. I don't understand.
Well, I guess I'm asking both. If that were to happen, does the administration will have authority to remove the clerk?
No.
Okay. So there's a couple things I think you're asking here. If you're talking about, firing of the clerk or removal of the clerk, that's a different question than I think what you originally asked, which was if they got downsized, I think, in responsibility, what would happen?
So
I think that was what you asked.
The clerk posed, Mr. President, if you indulge me, sir, because I think this is an important question, sir.
Yeah, and Councilor Davila, can you please speak up? You're pretty low.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So if the clerk gets hired to do as posted, the job of the clerk, the administration then decides to add on an extra 2 departments, right? Down the road, for whatever reason, voluntary or involuntary, the administration wants to end that agreement. What will happen to the clerk? Is the clerk out of a job completely, or does the clerk just goes back to being the clerk?
I think I understand that part now. Sorry. So yes, I think they revert back to just being the clerk. So the administration could reorganize and not make the position a department head any longer. What that would do to like salary and stuff like that's a different question. But yeah, I think they would lose the other additional things and just become the city clerk again. I think that is possible for them to do in the middle of a term, like in the middle of the 6-year term. I think it is possible to do that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Wall.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. This brings up kind of a conundrum because I'm not sure, and possibly Chairman Fenton, who chaired the committee that brought us such good candidates, were the individuals asked how they felt about running 3 departments for the price of 1, and 2, since this is a city council appointment, the city clerk, it's one of the big responsibilities we have. Would the city council play a role in whether or not all those positions should be combined under the clerk? And where does that leave us now? I'm not sure if you ask them, and certainly in our question and answer, we didn't have an opportunity to ask them how they felt about doing all 3 things for the price of 1.
If I may. Councilor Ramos, if you wouldn't mind, Councilor Fenton just responding before you speak.
Sure.
Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Councilor Walsh, we did not ask that question of candidate Jones or candidate Lazat because the mayor's office confirmed that they would not be taking on responsibilities outside of the clerk's office. And we narrowed our scope and our review just to the filling of the clerk's position, not to what would happen with potential discipline or removal or reorganization of the clerk in the future. Our review and our scope was filling the open position of city clerk, and that alone.
Without other departments.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, I think I can simplify things. Let's try to simplify things a little bit by saying this. Look, we are in charge of hiring the city clerk for the city of Springfield. That position was posted with a job description and a starting salary. Whichever person of these 3 candidates gets that position should start that job at least at the very same salary as the last 2 clerks, which was $100,000. Now, if the mayor wants to have any of those individuals, whoever we select, oversee any other department, then the mayor should negotiate a higher salary for that individual. Our role is to hire the city clerk today, and then if that city clerk that we end up selecting ends up being asked by the mayor to oversee or to have added responsibilities, then that should be a negotiation. That person should negotiate a higher salary and should very well compensated to oversee and to have additional responsibilities above the $100,000 starting salary for city clerk.
Councilor Ramos, Councilor Letterman, then Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just say that I agree that our job here tonight is to hire the city clerk. But I do think that there has to be a future discussion if there is a intent or a request for the city clerk to take on further responsibilities, no matter who it is. And the city charter very clearly states that the council shall, by a majority vote, elect the city clerk to hold office for, it says 3 years, but we amended it many years ago. And it says that the city clerk shall have the powers to perform such duties as the council may prescribe, in addition to such duties as may be prescribed by law. So, I think that is a conversation for us to have, an important conversation for us to have down the line if there's going to be some sort of reorganization, because I do believe that reorganization must include the city council for it to take place. But tonight, I think our job is to hire a city clerk, and I think we should do that.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. President. So let me just make sure I understand this correctly. So when we went into this, we knew that for Gladys, if Gladys is chosen, then the responsibilities for her would be different than those of the other candidates who are applying for the job. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
That is correct. Okay. All right. I guess that doesn't make much sense to me. It's either you want the person to fulfill those roles or you don't. But okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. At this time, considering the time, I'd like to entertain a motion to move to a roll call vote to appoint the next city clerk.
So moved.
All right, motion made by Councilor Fenton. May I have a proper second?
Second.
Councilor Whitfield on the motion.
This is on the motion, Council President. I don't know how we're moving forward on the motion when a lot of our questions have not been answered as far as HR goes. I think there was some ambiguity with what Councilor Walsh said, with what I said, what Councilor Davila asked. And so how do we move forward on a vote when those questions haven't been answered? For that reason, I cannot vote today because we need answers. We need to know what are they thinking as far as salary goes? Is there a special salary for the commissioner if chosen? What happens in the role in the event that, what if she feels like she doesn't want to do the role anymore? Does she go back to just, because now you're overseeing 3 departments, you go back to just overseeing 1, and then 311 goes somewhere else, and the clerk's office goes somewhere else? Like, these questions have not been answered. So how do we vote when it's not clear what we're voting on?
Good question.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Hurst on the motion.
Oh, I agree with Councilor Whitfield. It seems to me that we should have some answers prior to us voting at all. I think if you don't, then you certainly concede a level of power that we shouldn't concede with this, with this body. I think if we're also looking to protect whichever candidate ultimately is selected, then it would seem to me that we would want to have those answers for their benefit more than anything else. So if we do choose to vote today, then we certainly are putting whoever is selected in a very precarious position to simply accept what the mayor puts forward. And I'd imagine if it's an internal candidate, they will be leaned on extremely hard to do what it is that the mayor wants them to do.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Fenton.
That it is not our purview to discuss salary. I understand that.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the question. And I would just say that the reason that I'm comfortable proceeding tonight is because salary is outside of our jurisdiction. And I recognize the questions that have been raised, but it just, honestly, the question of salary, it seemed so far outside of what we would be considering within the context we hire that it wasn't something that I think we were prepared to address. We didn't have that discussion when we hired Clerk Wilson, and we didn't have that discussion when we hired Clerk Davis. We did permit, and through Council President Hurst at the time, Clerk Davis to take on responsibilities outside of the clerk's office, specifically related to marijuana matters and within her expertise within the law department. It seems to me like that's pretty similar to what Commissioner Aola may be asked to do in a grander capacity. And so I could say the same thing for the other appointment that the council makes. We just recently appointed Mr. No to another term, and no discussion of salary, nor was there a discussion of salary when we screened and searched them the first time. And I would say that that's the appropriate way to do it. So I certainly don't want to move ahead before people are comfortable, but I want to just explain why, from my perspective, as just one of 13 and the person that was on this committee, why it would be that I would be comfortable without having the answers to those questions, and why it was that we didn't address them through our committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Councilors, the time now is 6:16. I see 4 more hands in the queue, and we also have a motion on the floor which we will need to vote on. So I would just ask that you please keep your comments as concise as possible. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have to reiterate, I'm really annoyed there's nobody here from HR. And this is such an important vote, and I want to be fair to all the candidates. A part of me is feeling that maybe we're setting people up to fail. I don't know. I don't want to do that. Everybody makes their own choices. I get that. But I have to ask, what's the rush? I don't have full answers yet. I yield.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, I think we're ready to move forward tonight. I'm ready to move forward. It is our job, like I said, to hire the city clerk of the city of Springfield. The person who we end up selecting tonight will be hired as a city clerk, and they will be hired based on that, on the salary for a city clerk. The negotiations beyond that are out of our hands. It is not our job to negotiate the salary. It'll be up to the individual to negotiate whether or not they want to accept additional responsibilities, and whether or not and how much they should be compensated for that. But the earlier point that I made was that any person that accepts any additional responsibility beyond the city clerk should be compensated accordingly. It's not our job, and it wasn't my intention to try to negotiate that tonight. I was just making a point that person shall be compensated accordingly. But in terms of moving on tonight, I think that we're ready to select from these 3 individuals who should be the city clerk for the city of Springfield.
Councilors, thank you, councilors. Councilor Whitfield and Walsh, please, councilors, keep it short.
Yep. I don't think if we weren't going to discuss salary that it should have been brought up. It's not in our purview. I understand that, but there were other questions in addition to the salary. So salary, we understand we can't negotiate, but there were other questions in addition to the salary. And so if this moves forward tonight, I will not be voting. I will abstain for that reason.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Walsh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And one of our colleagues talked about the power of the city council. And we certainly don't want to give that away, especially when we're making an appointment that is the duty and responsibility of the city council. I am uncomfortable moving forward with some of the questions that have been raised tonight. And, we talked a lot about management and skills and experience, but, the city clerk is already split. The city clerk has the public office, and then the city clerk has all of us as the 13 counselors that they have to deal with, and the council office. We want to make sure that as counselors that we don't get short shrift with 311 and whatever else is going on. I really feel that there should be some more clarification on what the city clerk will be doing. The city clerk should be taking care of all the people that come in for the birth certificates and marriages and so forth. As said in the before, it is a very, very busy office. It's the public face so many times of the city council. And then we have the business of the city council. I'm a little concerned about how that's all going to be addressed. I think we have 3 very good candidates. I actually liked all of them. I wish there were 3 jobs that were available because I think there's some real talent out there. But let's not forget the city clerk works for us, and we should be
Thank you, Counselor.
the #1 priority.
Appreciate that, Counselor. Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Was it properly seconded? I know it was made by Counselor Fenton.
I believe it was Councilor.
To move to a roll call vote, was there a proper second?
I believe Councilor Edwards, sir.
Seconded by Counselor Edwards.
I believe.
Before we get to a vote, Brendan, how are we? Can we proceed? Okay. I want to take this final vote if it's going to be.
No, go for it. Please do.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. All right. We have a motion made to move to a roll call vote at this time. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on moving to a roll call vote?
Can I ask if the roll call fails, what the next step is?
If the roll call fails,
Yes.
then we will need a motion to move the meeting to another time, presumably next week.
Thank you.
For the clarification, Mr. President.
Yes.
If we don't meet the 7 threshold.
If we do not, you said?
Yeah, if we don't, failing meaning that if we don't get 7 votes.
The matter will need to be continued, so I will entertain a motion at that time to continue.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, please.
Councillor Edwards. Councillor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Gomez. Councillor Gomez. Absent. Councillor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Whitfield.
No.
No. Councillor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Brown. Councillor Brown.
Yeah.
Yes. Councillor Walsh.
No.
No. Councillor Davila.
No.
No. Councillor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Earth.
No.
No. Councillor Williams.
Yes. Vote has been passed. At this time, I'll entertain a motion. I'm sorry, I will actually move into a roll call vote for the appointment of the next city clerk. And I would just ask councilors to please just state the name of the candidate that you would like to have secured the job at this time. So Madam Clerk, if you would at this time, please call the roll for the appointment of the next city clerk.
Okay. Councillor Edwards would you?
It's going to be a name vote, Madam Clerk, and not a yes or no.
Yes. Rosa Jones.
So, Madam Clerk, it's going to be by each councilor. They're going to give the name of the candidate that they would like to proceed.
Okay, understood. Councillor Edwards, the name of the candidate you'd like to vote for.
Gladys Oyola.
Councillor Letterman, name of the candidate you'd like for the next city clerk.
Gladys Oyola.
Councillor Gomez, name of the next city clerk. Absent. Councillor Allen.
Gladys Oyola.
Councillor Curran, name of the next city clerk.
Gladys Oyola.
Councillor Whitfield, name of the next city clerk.
Gladys Oyola.
Councillor Ramos, name of the next city clerk.
Gladys Oyola.
Councillor Brown, name of the next city clerk.
Gladys Oyola.
Councillor Walsh, name of the next city clerk.
Gladys Oyola.
Councillor Davila, name of the next city clerk.
Gladys Oyola.
Counselor Fenton, name of the next city clerk.
Gladys Oyola Lopez.
Counselor Fenton, name of the next city clerk. I'm sorry, Counselor Ernst.
Gladys Oyola.
Counselor Williams.
Commissioner
Name of
Gladys
the next city
Oyola.
clerk.
Commissioner Gladys Oyola Lopez. Congratulations, Commissioner. You have been appointed as the next city clerk of the Springfield City Council. I want to thank all of our guests for joining and counselors for joining this evening, as well as, again, the subcommittee, clerk search committee that yielded and wielded these candidates down to 3 very qualified. And for you all that participated, it's because of you that, we certainly do the work that we do and bringing folks to the forefront with the skills and qualifications to fill such a seat. So thank you for all your thoughts and the context that you gave us to help us make a more informed decision. So with that, Commissioner Oyola Lopez, I think congratulations and thank you again. And at this time, we're 4 minutes away from public speak out, so I will adjourn. And I don't believe I need a vote for that, Madam Clerk. Is that correct?
Mr. President, I was just wondering if perhaps we could give her the new city clerk 30 seconds to say something.
Yes, please. Commissioner, I'd love for you to.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. I didn't want to be presumptuous, but I wanted to thank the other applicants. I wanted to thank all 13 city councilors for taking the time to sit and talk to all of us. Clearly, we're all interested in public service and really wanted to do the work of the city clerk's office. And I look forward to meeting with each and every one of you so that I can speak one-on-one about my responsibilities and the work that I intend to do to uphold the important work that is done by the city clerk's office and by the city council. So thank you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to working with you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Rosa.
And thank you to all of the candidates this evening.
You're welcome. Thank
God
you.
bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.